Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the Bitcoin miners and some Bitcoin dividend ETFs and ETFs that you can do options on for additional income if you want to. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so first thing I want to do is give a shout out to Birdman23. You did ask for Iren, if I'm not mistaken. IREN, I think is what it's called. Let me see if I can find the comment real quick. Where is it? I don't even know. I'm just kind of like looking through here and trying to find your comment. There's so many comments. Thank you, y'all. Appreciate it. Yeah, so this is for you. We got Iron here. You can see it is right there. We're going to cover that today. So let me go ahead and first get into the different ETFs for Bitcoin that you can do options on. Now, I believe I don't think that IBIT and well, you know what? Let's look it up because I don't want to misquote here. So let's take a look at IBIT, see if IBIT, BlackRock's ETF, actually pays a dividend. I'm pretty sure it does not. No, it doesn't. So you could invest in that one with the intention of making money from it as kind of like a buy and hold strategy, but obviously you're not going to get paid any passive income. You can see Maxi here does actually pay some passive income, but as far as I know, it's not possible to do options on this. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And then there's also GBTC, which is another one that has exposure to Bitcoin, but this one again does okay. Well, it pays a dividend, but it doesn't pay it very often. And what the heck is that? I've never seen a $113 dividend per share. That's crazy. Yeah, that was back during basically the bull run top of 2017. So yeah, I don't know. That's a lot. That would be insane if a dividend ETF of any kind paid that much money. That would just be nuts. Okay, so Maxi pays a dividend, all right? And then you have BITX, which we are currently doing the wheel strategy on, that pays a dividend. And then you also have BITO that pays a dividend. And the reason why I bring these up is because, again, we are talking about the Bitcoin miners. We're talking about the gains and also the potential passive income. So you can see BITO for quite some time now has been paying a lot of money. Bitcoin's pretty volatile in general. I mean, the price of Bitcoin was kind of really moonshotting during this time frame right here, so the dividends weren't as great. But again, with Bitcoin pushing to all-time highs, the share price was going up. So even though you weren't making as much money in passive income, you were still making a lot of money in gains, depending on where you bought at. All right, so we're going to take a look at the different options here so you can see for yourself. Maybe perhaps they have options available on different platforms. We're just taking a look at Robinhood here. So nothing on IBIT. So it does appear that Maxi does have some options that can be done here, but I'm not seeing anything. So there is an options chain, but there is no actual, basically, bidders in here. Nobody's really interested in trading this on options, which kind of sucks, but oh well. I mean, you still get paid passive income. So GBTC, this one does not have options. As far as I know, eventually, at some point, I don't know exactly when, but I've heard that IBIT is supposed to have some options coming out. So do be on the lookout for that. Next one here, BITX. This is one that we're currently doing. Again, this is actually quite cheap compared to some of the other Bitcoin ETFs. It's only $27. And we're currently doing the wheel on this. So again, part of the reason why we're doing this is because we think that Bitcoin is likely going to go much, much higher in the next 3 months. Okay, so you can kind of see that this 32 delta. We did the basically 30 or less because, again, Bitcoin is extremely volatile. So 27 delta, $65 a week in passive income. Again, this would come out to like, what is that, 260 a month? And then eventually at some point, if you get assigned, you can basically flip it into the covered calls. Again, this is what's known as a wheel strategy in options. Might have to wait for the price to go up a little bit to get some more premium because, again, generally speaking, the best time to do covered calls is when the share price is going up, and the best time to do cash secured puts is when the share price is going down. Okay, so Beto is the other one that you can do the wheel strategy on. This one does not pay as much as BITO. Again, I'm assuming that's because this is Bitcoin futures and not um, Bitcoin futures times 2, which I think is what BITX is, if I'm not mistaken. So Beto $17 strike price here. You can see a 23 delta. It's only $14 per week. But again, if you have like a 10 contracts of this, I mean, that's $140 per week. Again, 1,000 shares is a lot, but there's people that literally just do this. That's all they do, is they just accumulate shares and do options on it. So again, that's entirely up to you how you want to do that. There is also one for Ethereum. Again, I probably would not own any Ethereum-based dividend ETFs. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's just Bitcoin's been in the game a lot longer. So, but you can see this particular Ethereum ETF does pay quite a bit in dividends. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so going over the miners here. Pretty much just going to say the same things. Well, maybe not exactly the same things I said last time, but basically we are in this kind of broadening rising wedge. This is typically a bearish pattern, but again, we are basically testing the very lowest macro trend line here, which in theory should hold, and I'll show you guys why. Usually these do hold. In this case, I'm not expecting that to break until the bear market bottom, or I should say until the bear market actually is fully fledged and we get past that point, which again, I think we're a long ways away from that. But if I go over here to Tesla, I can show you guys this macro trend line that we basically told you back here. We thought likely Wall Street was going to buy down here. So you kind of had like this descending channel. People probably thought it was going to break out to the upside. You get that little undercut right there down to the trend line. The kind of last capitulation to shake out the weak hands. And then what happens? Boom, took off to the upside. But the point is not the trading psychology. The point is basically the fact that it tested that lowest macro trend line and still held and then went higher. So that's kind of what I'm expecting with Mara. And again, Mara, which ones is it? Mara, Riots, Hut 8, and CLSK you can do options on. These are very popular to do options, selling puts and calls. The only thing that sucks is CLSK is no longer at $20 because it has kind of gotten beat down, but you can see the miners are actually making a nice recovery, so I'm expecting them to go up in sync with Bitcoin over the next 6 months. So yeah, a lot of these will fluctuate. I think things like Cypher, BTBT, BITF, they're not really going to pay so much in options unless you plan on doing like monthly or maybe bi-monthly or something like that. Okay, so in terms of support, I'm looking for somewhere between 13, or I should say about 1370 going out to maybe about 1450. Again, I do think Mara is going to lift before December. I don't think it's going to stay down here for very long. That's just kind of the basically worst case scenario. Nice little hammer candle here. That's a very bullish sign. Very bullish candle. The only thing that I don't like is that it's not green, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. So target points here, 18 and roughly about 20, and then you got basically 29 to 33, somewhere in there. Okay, so in terms of measurements here, profit targets, we got 32% and 126%. Again, you can do options on these on the way up if you're like, well, I don't want to touch anything that doesn't have passive income. Then I totally get it. Trust me, dude. That's exactly why we have a mix of both crypto and dividend-paying stocks, because, I feel you. I get what you're saying. So Riot, next one, again, very bullish looking hammer candle. This one is actually green, whereas Mara was red. I don't think that really matters, truthfully. It only matters as to whether this is a continuation up or not. So MACD, getting ready to have that golden cross way below the zero line. That's usually the most bullish bottom indicator you can get. You can get golden crosses on the MACD above the zero line, but it's typically much more bullish when you get the golden cross below the zero line, because again, the price would have been beaten into the dust by that point. So the further down it goes, the further the MACD goes down, and then you get that golden cross, and then boom, the rip is just that much more explosive to the upside. Okay, so so pretty much I'd be looking at kind of around $7 as kind of the base case here. If you're worried about it, $3.50 to about $5.30 would be the kind of the bear market lows there. I don't really think it's going to go that low. Can't promise it, but I just don't think so. So you basically have kind of like the support right at the lows of those candles right there, and then you have this little undercut, and then it came back. So it tells me that likely that kind of 7 area is most likely going to hold. So 1860 to roughly about 21 is going to be the target up there. Again, Riot can go much, much higher than $21. I don't actually even think that's going to be the peak. So 187. Again, I want to do kind of a rough estimate just to give you guys a bird's eye view of the previous peak. So Riot was at $80. Mara was at over $80 on the peak of last cycle. Hut 8 was also around $80 at the peak of last cycle. Funny how they keep all going to 80. That's a bit weird, but whatever. I mean, money's money. So 15 for Cypher, BTBT. This one was like stupidly bullish in the last cycle. It went from, where was this? 53 cents to $33. So you're talking like, I don't even know what that is. That's like 100x. It's insane. So if you missed out on Bitcoin during the 2015, 2016 bull run when Bitcoin did 100x, well, this would have been your second chance right here. But I mean, it's hard to say where the new all-time highs this cycle is going to be. It could be lower, it could be higher. We don't know. There's probably a lot of people in this space that don't really trust the institutions, and they would rather mess around with the miners like they're used to doing in previous cycles than mess around with these institutions because they don't trust it. There are some people in the space like that, and I don't blame them for feeling that way. So 940 on BITF. Iron, this thing was, wow, this was really high. So almost $29 in the previous cycle. And then we have the last one here, which is CLSK. Again, we have a lot of money staked on CLSK. So the previous all-time high here was at 41. Again, it's not as high as some previous times, but it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, it's either going to go up or it's not. And every single bull market run that Bitcoin's had, these things have, all of them have shot to the moon. Okay, so going back to Hut 8. So we got out of that falling channel here. Again, that was a past pattern, but you can kind of see how these are theoretically supposed to play out. The target's supposed to be right around the top of the wedge. We didn't get quite up there, but pretty close. I would say it's pretty much, about 95% of the mark. So we got a nice little bounce off of the top of the support zone. You can see how perfect this bounce was. So roughly about $8.90, $9 somewhere in there is kind of the base I'd be looking at. And then 1730 to 2250 is going to be those highs up there. And then, of course, at the lower end here, the bear market low is 370. I don't think it goes that low. I'm just going to be honest about it. Worst case scenario, maybe it comes back to $9, but I think we're kind of a little late in the game for the miners to be pulling back at this point. So 153%. Cypher, this is kind of in no man's land, but you have a very, very large green candle here, followed by another large green candle pushing up against the top of this one. So my guess, and again, this is above the EMAs, my guess is that Cypher is probably going to go back up into resistance next week. I mean, this looks like a pretty good setup. So actually, if I just want to see, but yeah, so it does actually kind of, and again, sometimes we look at the daily on this, sometimes we don't, but it kind of does look like there is some kind of bull flag going on here. So obviously not perfect, but you can kind of see it here. And again, don't take my word for this. I can't tell you guys what to do, but if you choose to take a trade based on this pattern, just understand you're taking risk. I mean, this is in between the zones. It could go either way. I'd be looking for a more asymmetrical bet and wanting to be buying down here in the green than versus kind of in the middle. I suppose you could take a swing trade too. You could also do that. So you guys know our swing trade indicator is usually when the EMAs on the, well, not on the daily, but on the 4-hour time frame cross. Usually we get in and then we ride the wave up. But the target in this case would be $5. And again, when we get that golden cross indicator, we always do it on the 4-hour time frame. We never do it on any other time frame except 4 hours. And again, I am giving this information to you guys for free, not charging you for it. It's a pretty basic strategy. A lot of people use this, or maybe some other indicators, but you can see if you had just gotten in, let's say, right as this thing was about to cross to that previous high up there, it by itself would have been a 40% move. I can actually show you guys even a couple other instances where this has happened. Look, so you got one right here. And again, I know this is not about swing trading, but it's just to show you guys just how simple this is. Again, if you're big on using stops, make sure to put your stop in place so you don't lose money. But you can see this move right here was over 20%. If I go back in time again, this one was 8%. Again, this is not always going to be perfect. These are not always going to be grand slam plays, but sometimes they will be. 53%. Even if I go over to something like Nvidia, which again, you know, I would say I'm probably about equally bullish on Nvidia and Tesla. I'm not really necessarily for one over the other, but I do kind of have a little bit more bias towards Nvidia because it's the king of AI, so to speak. So 21% here on the last big move, and you can see this absolutely stupid move back here. I mean, this was insane. You put $10,000 on this trade, you would have made $6,400. And you can see currently it already just had a golden cross here. And then what happened? 10% move. So you can see it's very effective. It's not always perfect. Sometimes it's going to kind of chop around and maybe then take off. It doesn't always go immediately to the moon, but just something to keep in mind there. Okay, so going back to Cypher. So support down here, 210 to 270, resistance 5 to about 560, and we already went over the highs, so about $8 on that swing high. It's hard to say which way this is going to go. I mean, it looks pretty bullish. I think it's going to go higher pretty quick. But if for some reason you do get a pullback down to support, which again, I really highly doubt is going to happen. But of course, if you're serious about position trading, you know, you'd be watching this thing like a hawk, waiting days or even weeks for the right opportunity to get in. 115% and a 201% move. Again, I don't know exactly how Warren Buffett trades, but if I was Warren Buffett, which I'm not, okay, I'm not 90 years old, thank God. By the time I am 90 years old, I'm pretty convinced at this point that there will be cures for aging, so people will live for a very long time compared to what they currently do, but that is a topic for another video. If I was waiting to get into this, I probably would have maybe positioned here on the oversold of the RSI, and then maybe kind of waited for this thing to bottom out. It's hard to say exactly, but basically I would not have touched, if I was position trading, I would not have touched any of this right here in the middle. I would have basically, if I knew that the crypto bull run or that this run for this particular miner would be over at this time, you know, I'd see it kind of testing this level. You get this big blow off top and then it fails. Seeing these red candles, I probably would have got out and waited to see what happened. Kind of let it ride down and then eventually kind of base out. You see its bases out right here. I probably would have positioned here and then maybe kind of just bought along here. If it dipped a little bit more, maybe buy down kind of in here. As it's basing out, it would have been not completely obvious, but it would have mitigated a lot of the risk. This is what I would like to call the Warren Buffett trade. Again, it's position trading. You're basically waiting for the prime opportunity to get in, okay? You can think of it, and again, I hate to use this analogy. I'm not afraid of snakes, but I hate using a snake as an analogy here. So it's like the snake waiting in the bushes for the right moment to strike its prey, okay? Something similar to that. So you got to be patient, you got to wait, and you got to know when to pull the trigger. And when you see the opportunity, you got to learn not to be afraid to pull the trigger. Again, it comes down to emotional control. So yeah, anyways, that's my little spiel for today. Getting back to the charts here, we'll go over BT, BITF, IRENS, and CLSK, and then be done with this. Okay, so BT, very similar thing. It's kind of in the middle like Cypher. EMAs are pointing up, golden cross. That's very bullish looking. This might also pop to resistance by maybe within a week or two. Okay, so 160 to $2 down here at support, 425 to 480 at resistance, and then you kind of got that swing high up there at 520. You might be able to get maybe another dip buy kind of right around that 240. You can see where those 3 candle bottoms are there. I would say that's probably worst case scenario, but again, don't take my word for it. You guys can make up your own minds about this. So 182 and 201%. BITF, I would say this one is a better buy than these two right here, than Cypher and BTBT in my opinion, because again, we're kind of sitting at this base support level here, right above this trend line, which is held basically since pretty much the bear market lows. This more or less looks like a golden opportunity to me. And then we also have this downtrend line, which eventually when this breaks, is pretty much to the upside after that point. So support currently 190, or we'll basically call it $2 to 240. Then you got 3 to 360, and then kind of that swing high at roughly about 395. So maximum move here somewhere between 82 to as high as roughly about 100%. That trend line's kind of sitting along 150 to 170. All right, Birdman, so this is for you. So we got iron here, RSI Golden Cross. That's always a good sign. Again, this is my very first time looking at this chart or this miner. I have never seen this miner before, so this is going to be raw footage. So iron, pretty much what I'm seeing here is a potential W pattern. So you got kind of that first leg and then second leg. You can, I don't know if you guys can see this, but if this looks anything like this, then it becomes a W pattern. Okay. And you got this very bullish looking hammer candle here sitting right above the EMAs after a big fat green candle above the EMAs. That's always very bullish. Hammer candle just indicates massive buying pressure is pretty much what it means. All right, so in terms of, and again, I don't know if this one has options. If it does, leave it in the comments down below so everybody else can know about it. But in terms of support here, just looking kind of a bird's eye view, seeing where the potential buying area is, I'd say it's kind of right down there. There is also possibly another buying area right here. It's not perfect, but kind of a rough estimate. And then potential kind of short-term target, maybe somewhere in here. Again, this is a really large range, but the candles are kind of all over the place. So sometimes as a trader, I have to do this. So bear market lows, 110 to about 345, 620 to 790 at the current support, which again, I do think this is support because you can see the resistance over here. And then we got above it. Now we're testing the support. That's known as a flip zone. Okay, so you got 1350 to about 18 is going to be that resistance up there. If you get a pullback to the bottom of the support at 620, the move would become roughly about 190%. And again, that does not include options. If you do options on this, whether you're doing long calls, call debit spreads, cash secured puts, covered calls, I mean, you could throw those percentage gains on top of the actual profit from the shares. Again, it depends on your style of trading and investing. All right, so last one here, CLSK. So so you can kind of see this little short-term bullish divergence. Again, I think this is actually probably a little bit more obvious on the daily time frame. Yeah, so here we go. So you can see short-term bullish divergence. So price going down, MACD going up, RSI going up. We hit that oversold back in September. And then we got a series of golden crosses and a death cross here. Bitcoin is notorious for doing that. If you guys go back through Bitcoin's history, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that's a very, very bullish sign in my opinion. So we're holding this macro trend line again, which is, I mean, we've been doing this basically since bear market lows. Okay, so in terms of buy zones here, so I'd say pretty much anywhere between $8.50 going up to about $14 would be a good buy area. Targets I'm looking for is about 21.20 to 23.50, maybe even as high as 25. And again, this can go much, much higher. I'm not sure what this is, but there was some kind of target here for this. I don't know exactly what this is. But yeah, $36 is whatever that is. So I forget. I'd have to go back through previous videos and look. But you can see the previous all-time high was at 42. Again, I don't see any reason why CLSK couldn't hit at least $30 to $40 per share. And again, if I go out in time here on the options market, The reason why we take a look so much at options, even though we're talking about the miners, is because the options market tell a story. Okay, that's kind of the options market is telling us, is to an extent telling us future expectations or the future of the price of this particular asset without actually saying it. Okay, so that's pretty much what's going on here. So if I go over here, you can see these monstrous amount of options. Okay, 16,000 open interest on the 25 in January of next year. 2250, 6,000. You got 2,000. I can keep going up with this. So you have 12,000, which is that's really insane. 2,700. Just keep going up. 35 is 6,000, and then 37 is a massive 12,000. Even if I were to go down to something like, let's say, maybe 27,000. Okay. So there's a lot of open interest here, tens of thousands of contracts. It's a huge amount of money. Again, there is a lot of the options market is betting. Pretty much what this is telling you is that the option market is betting that there's an extremely high likelihood that the prices will be at these prices by this time for this particular stock. Okay, that's pretty much what it's telling you. All right, so CLSK, we went over the different levels here. So the measurement, and again, this is kind of at that macro trend line. You can do what you want with that. 162% and then 174. Again, if this thing does get up to 37, which is not really out of the realm of possibility. I mean, it was at 37 in the last cycle. There's no reason to think it couldn't do it again. It then becomes 265%. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.